Hi kids, welcome back to Art with Mrs. B. We're going to be working with oil pastels today to create our own sunflower inspired by Vincent van Gogh's series of sunflowers, and I'll show you some photos of those. Vincent van Gogh is a Dutch painter, and he painted his sunflower oil painting series from 1887 to 1889. We're going to be experimenting with color and shape today, layering our oil pastels, and let's go over some materials that you're going to be needing. First, I'd like you to get some newspaper or some kind of table cover to cover your surface because the oil pastels are going to get kind of crummy, and I'll tell you what I mean in just a couple minutes. You're going to need some white drawing paper, and also a piece of scratch paper so you can experiment with some of your colors and layering. Going to need oil pastels. I've got my oil pastels right here. And pencil and eraser. And super important, just some paper towels. Paper towels for wiping fingers because you're going to use your fingers to blend. And also, if you're not wanting to use your fingers to blend, you can use your paper towel to rub off any little bits of oil pastel, or use your paper towel to blend. So this is just my version of what we're going to do. You're welcome to use your own colors. Stop. The colors you choose can be realistic sunflower colors like yellows and oranges. There are even white sunflowers out there in the world. Or you can do something crazy and wacky and use purples and reds and pinks, whatever you'd like. I've got my white paper and my pencil, erasers nearby just in case I need that. And I'm going to concentrate on big shapes. I want to fill this paper with big shapes and big sunflower, so there's not much of a background. If you choose to do the same, that's fine. If you'd like to make it a bit smaller, but I don't want any tiny little sunflowers. Let's make it big and grand. So first of all, let's create, I think I want it a little bit off center. Let's create the center of the sunflower here. And from there, we're going to go with big petals. If you need to stop and go back and reference some of the photos of the sunflowers that I posted here for you, please do. If you want to look up some of your own, go ahead. So they're kind of a football shape. I'm going to draw a little bit darker than I want you to. Football shape petals. Some of them you can do real curvy. Some of them are going to be overlapping each other. Do you see how this line of the petal overlaps this shape? Big football shapes going off the page. So you have to use your imagination to picture what's going on off that page. Big, big, big shapes. Then I want some shapes that are going to be behind. So the petals are showing coming off behind the petals that we already drew. And let's get one more over here and over here. So do you see how this would come down like this as a petal there? This would come over around. I'm not drawing it, I'm just using my imagination, and then the line would be here. So you do have to use your imagination for what is behind another. Now I've got where my lines cross over. I'm going to erase that line so it really looks like I've layered. And I'm going to erase this line so it really looks like I've layered. I'd like you to draw lightly. I've drawn a little bit dark so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to add in one more petal here and one more petal here. And by those two lines, I have a petal that looks like it's behind this other one. You see what I'm done there? Let's see, where am I missing any? Maybe this line for this that's going to come across there. And let's do one more smaller petal behind there. Okay. Now, I want you to think about the center of the sunflower. Now it's a circular shape, And if you look at pictures of real sunflowers, you'll see that the seeds in the center are kind of formed in a circular shape. I'm drawing dark, I want you to draw light, but we're going to use this circular format, which are called concentric circles. They start smaller and they get larger as they go off the page, go out of the page. And that's where we're going to concentrate our different colors and different blending. So let's get our oil pastels out. I think I'm going to do kind of realistic colors in that orange and yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and put some yellow into my petals. So I'm coloring in my base color. Now with oil pastels, I like to break them in half, believe it or not, to use a smaller piece, not too small, and then I peel off the paper wrapper, and now I have my oil pastel that I can use the side of the oil pastel to press as hard as I can, and that gets a nice layer on. And then I take the end of it and really get some deep color in there. Now my pencil lines are going to show. Yours, I'm hoping, are very light so that you can make them disappear by drawing with your oil pastels over. If they show, that's okay. Filling in all my shapes with my base color. Yours does not have to be yellow, just reminding you that. But we're going to do other colors over our base color. So let's finish up with the base color and we'll get back together and get to the next step. So I filled in all of my base color. I chose yellow and I'm going to add some other color to it. I'm going to break my orange one in half and peel off the label so I can use the side of it if I want to. Now when you're using your oil pastels, you're going to get little crumbs of oil pastel on here. I just take my fingernail and kind of pick some of them up and put it over here on paper towel so I can throw them away. Don't get them on the carpet or the floor or the rest of your table because they'll get lost and smashed into the carpet. So I'm using my orange in this case and using the side of it. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I did on my example. I like to try something different every time I do something. And I'm going to create some streaks in here. And I'll be blending them later. And you see how I'm following the curve of the shape of the petal? But I'm letting some yellow show through. I'm letting some of that base color show through. Now if you press harder, you're going to get a more intense color. If you do it lighter, you're going to get a lighter color. And if you want to see how something looks blended together, use your scratch paper. There's some orange, and I'm adding some yellow. And look how it looks when I come out of the yellow. Blending the yellow and the orange, and I'm using my finger. We're going to be doing some of that on our project. Now what happens if I blend, there's yellow, if I put some purple on there with the yellow? Now those two are opposites on the color wheel. And if you get the right combo, you're going to create a brown in there. I want you to keep that in mind when you need brown. Even though you have a brown oil pastel, it's always so cool to create your own. So that was just a little aside because I get all excited about blending. But I'm going to go back to getting some color in my petals, leaving some of that background color. So I've added my second color to my yellow. I've added some orange. Remember, color choices are for you to decide. You're the artist, you get to decide. I want to point out that I'm going to darken up, give a little bit more intense color to where the petal attaches to the center of the flower. I'm coming out this way from the center, and I'm going to add a bit of, I think maybe browns in just a minute. And I'll show you why. Get some brown. That's not brown, that's red. And I like to work with half a pastel. Break it in half. I got blue in there. Okay. So I'm going to do a bit of kind of it's not coming out. A bit of streaks from the center of the flower coming out in a radial fashion. And some of those lines can be a little bit longer. Creates a little bit more realism in it. Some of them can even be really long, but it gets another layer of color in there and some more interest. And you can turn the paper around as you work. You don't have to be awkward and coming around the other side. Do what's more comfortable for you. I'm pressing pretty hard because that brown is hard to show through because I've already got 2 layers of oil pastel on there. And I'm following the curve of the shape of the petal. Doing that all the way around. The colors are starting to blend a little bit just by themselves, not using an extra finger on my part. Now I also want to get the petals in the back a little bit darker, so I'm adding a little bit more brown to that. But still that yellow and orange is showing through. Creating a bit of a shadow on the back of those. I'm sorry, on the petals that are in the back. The petals in the front are creating a bit of shadow over those petals. So we're darkening the petals in the back a little bit. Now if you're using some more unrealistic colors like purples and reds, you might add a little bit more purple to that, or even a little bit of blue over that purple, just to get a bit darker petals in the background.